On Wednesday the 29th of March, Theresa May's government will trigger Article 50 of the Treaty of Lisbon and begin the process that, within 2 years, will lead to the UK leaving the European Union. Yes, we're pulling out of Europe. After muscling our way into the common market over 40 years ago, we are now going in the opposite direction. In the referendum last year, I voted for Remain. On the morning of the 24th of June, I was crestfallen. Not simply because we had lost the vote, but because I knew that the decision to leave had been taken, irrevocably. Since then, there has been much work of preparation. There have been attempts to delay or hamper the triggering of Article 50. And a number of useful correctives and caveats have been introduced or voiced. The delay hitherto has been justified. One cannot rush into these things, but now is the time to start.
Young, I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
You might be young and handsome, but you won't be after I finish with you.
We have had enough tough talk from both the EU and the UK. The bill for leaving will be very costly. No deal is better than a bad deal. This is pre-match sparring. It's bravado aimed mainly at the gallery. It will have no place when the serious negotiations begin. To delay further just creates more opportunity for such verbal swaggering. It might wind up envenoming the talks and queering the pitch for the negotiators. Furthermore, Scotland's First Minister is pressing once again for a referendum on independence, basically creating waves in order to strengthen her government's hand in any future negotiations with Westminster. But such a referendum can only take place after the UK has completed its exit from the EU. When they see the final deal, the Scots may not want independence from the UK at all. Much better then to get the whole Brexit process over as soon as is reasonably possible. Finally, we have had enough of ideas scribbled on the backs of envelopes about what kind of deal might be reached between the UK and the EU. We are about to start the most complex set of negotiations in human history. The negotiators will only begin to get an idea of where they are really going once the negotiations are underway. The situation is made all the more complex by the fact that there are 2 sets of negotiations to be completed, and they don't necessarily have the same timetable. Brexit, as such, represents only one part, and not the most difficult, of the overall process.
'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet.
We're all talking about Brexit, but this word refers only to the governmental and bureaucratic separation of the UK from the EU, which must be complete within the 2 years. It says very little about the trade and other relationships which must be established between the EU and the UK, except that such relationships must be established. Brexit is not a divorce, since our 27 partners in the EU should remain our 27 partners, although partners of a different kind. We will continue to trade with them as freely as possible, and to cooperate closely with them on such issues as defence and intelligence. Indeed, a new defence pact is soon to be concluded between the UK and Germany. We ought to define ourselves less by our past than by our future, not by what we are leaving, but by where we are going. Brexit as a word has served its purpose. It is now an obstacle. What we are negotiating in the coming years is a new relationship with Europe and a new standing for Britain in the world.
Pluck up your hearts. By your peace in camp and your valour in the field, we shall shortly have a famous victory.
This new settlement, as it might be called, won't be easy. We shall have to strive to invent for ourselves a whole new role and to convince all of our partners to do things in a new way, a way more adapted to the needs of the present age. On the 23rd of June last year, referendum day itself, I visited Lord Howell, formerly a minister under 3 PMs. He told me that the European Union's single market was a 20th century answer to a 21st century problem. In this new world of technological and commercial interconnectedness, governments have a duty to protect their citizens, to control their borders, and prudently to manage population movements. But in all other forms of cooperation, economic, scientific and social, they should exploit as many networks as possible. One such network is the Commonwealth. Recently, Lord Howell published an article on the possibilities it offers, which include the fact that it already exists, that it brings together people in a number of different fields from around the globe, and that, with enough willpower, spaces for free trade could be created within it. Another opportunity for the UK is the chance to reinforce our relationship with the United States. But as Lord Howell said, we need to multiply the networks. I think it makes no sense to cultivate our relationships with the US and with the Commonwealth just in order to turn our backs on Europe. The new settlement must mean a role for the UK as the ultimate conjunction between these and other spheres. A role quite simply unique. That, and not a mere divorce, is our goal. The views expressed in this videocast are those of the participants and not those of any organisation or party. You may not indeed hear such views elsewhere.